Okay, so now we're going to cut one of these guys up into smaller pieces to get the fire going more easily. You want to see if you can get one that doesn't have too many knots in it. This one here isn't too bad. It's a smaller piece as well. It should do the trick. Now there are various different ways that you can do this. One is you can put your knife in, stick it into a log like this, and you can drive this other piece of wood through it. And another way is you can just put your knife in on top and then just split it like so. So what we'll do is we'll take another piece of wood here and we'll pound this in. And now we've got enough hangover here with the knife. We've got about an inch or an inch and a half here, and we're going to want that to help us drive the knife through once it gets through the main section here, if it doesn't split right away. So let's pound this guy in. Okay, now we can see here it's already starting to split right here. And you can see on the back here it's starting to go as well. So this guy here is going to go pretty quickly. Again, this is very dry wood, so I would expect that it would split pretty quickly. And then we're just hitting at the end of the knife. Now you really want to make sure you've got a very strong knife here, and it's a fixed blade. You don't want a folding knife. It's really not going to work very well for you in this sort of scenario. This particular knife is a Bark River Bravo 1. It's a fairly thick blade on it, but really any kind of a high quality fixed blade knife should do the trick. And there we go. So now we've got this guy here is halved, and we'll just continue on this route. Now we could just take it and split it again like this. I'll show you another technique, which is you pretty much just create a little splitting factory here. So what I'll do is I'll take this, and I've just got this old birch log here. I'm going to drive the knife into that. Make sure I leave enough before the hilt here that I can get the piece of wood onto the blade. But you want to drive it in pretty far to make sure you've got a really good secure embedment there. You want to drive it in pretty far because you want to make sure it's going to be nice and secure. Hold on, just lost one piece here. Okay. So now we just take this and drive it through like so. Alright, so there's that piece here. Make this here a little bit smaller, straighten up the knife a bit. And one more for this guy. We'll get some nice kindling out of this piece. And now also, if you have a good strong blade, there's another way that you can do this as well. Pull this guy out. And I wouldn't recommend doing this very often, I suppose. But if you got a good strong knife, you should be able to take it and you just drive it through the piece of wood like so, and then you just twist it like that, and then that can also break it apart for you. So between those methods of splitting wood, you should be able to get most any size log down to a size that you need. Now if you have a bigger log, even bigger than this, let's say even twice as big, you just start on the edge and you can just take slivers off as you go. Now there's a big knot here at the top of this one. You can see that's already pulling off here. And you can just continue around the log and just take slivers off of it until it's down to a manageable size, and then you take it from there. So you would just continue like that, go around the log until it's whittled down to nothing. Now, another way you can split larger pieces of wood, you can do much larger than this actually, any pieces even this big around, and you would just start from the edge, but is to use a wedge. And so here we have a piece. I've got two pieces here. This one here would work fairly well. It's quite narrow, but it could possibly do the trick, maybe a little weak. We also have this piece here, which is a little bit thicker. And so what you can do is you can just shave this down here into a wedge. So we just want to bring it down to a nice even point here at the end. And you want to make it gradual enough though that you're going to be able to work with it. If you make it with not enough of an angle, then you're not really going to be able to get it in there that well. You want it to be able to kind of gradually move in and then split it slowly. So we'll give it a little bit of a gradual end here. Now you could use the saw for this if you wanted as well, but I find the knife does the trick and gives you a little more control. It doesn't have to be an absolute point. You want it because you're going to be putting it into an existing opening that you've opened up with your knife, and I'll show you that in a moment. And also it doesn't have to be a perfect on both, even on both ends. I don't know if you can see here, but I've got it more on this one side than on the other here. That's fine. Just as long as once you start pounding it in that it's going to split open. I think this should do the trick all right. So now I've got this one here, which I'm going to use to batten it with. And this is the piece that I'll split. It's got a few knots on it here, so we'll see how we work through that. Now this one here would be a little more difficult because you can see with my knife, whenever I lay this across it, there's not much of the tip coming out of this end here. If I put it all the way to the hilt, I don't have a lot. So once that's going through it, you're not going to have a lot of the tip that you're going to be able to hit. And if you're to try to put this into the log, you're not going to have that much in the log to really steady it. So the wedge is a good way to go with this size. So what we want to do is we want to get it started with the knife here. We're just going to go straight through the middle. Pound this in. There we go. Now, once we have this in enough here, now I've got it, or I've got a bit of an opening there, and so that would be enough to get the wedge in. And there's various ways you can do this. You can start by just putting the wedge in here right now, and what will happen is as you start pounding this down, it's going to widen it. You've got the knife leading the charge here, cutting through it. As it starts cracking more, the knife will loosen up, and you'll be able to just easily pull it out. All right. There we go. So the knife just comes out nice and easy. Actually, I'll put that away. It's always a good idea to put the knife away as often as possible. Saves you from losing it, stepping on it, accidentally cutting yourself with it, and like I say, be safe. So, all right. So now all we have is the wedge going through this piece here now, like so. And we should be able to just drive that straight through it. Just like that. Now again, this one came apart pretty easily, but the nice thing with the wedge, and especially if you keep it relatively long like this, is that even with a really tough piece, you can just drive it straight through. And it's worth noting that you want it to be relatively long as well, because if you make it too short and you get it in, let's say it's only the half length here, and you get it in halfway and it's not done yet, well, you got a bit of a problem. I mean, you can always take another piece which is about the same width as the top here and then continue pounding in from there. But it's nice to have a nice long piece, that way it's a good sturdy piece that you're hammering through, and you can send it all the way through to the bottom if required. So that's a way for splitting the larger pieces like this with your knife.